Well, welcome to the CP stage. Whether you're in the auditorium or you're on camera watching us online right now, we are grateful to be with you today. My name is Jamie Dew. I'm the president of New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary and Level College, and I've got two guests here with me today to help join me and talk about the Cooperative Program and what it means specifically for theological education. Appreciate you guys being here with me today. Let me introduce these guys and we'll jump into some questions. Right here on my left, I've got our newly elected president of Gateway Seminary. How long now? How many days?
Just under a month.
Just under a month. This is Dr. Adam Groza. Just what number president are you?
8th.
He's the 8th president at Gateway Seminary. Man, we're excited to have you on board. Council of Seminary Presidents, we've loved having you so far and excited to work with you in the years to come. Appreciate you joining us for the CP stage today. And then we've got over here, even further to my left, we've got Ryan Hutchinson. He is the Vice President for Business and Operations at Southeastern Seminary. How long have you been there, Ryan?
A little over 27 years.
27 years. We worked together at Southeastern for a very, very long time. And my nickname for him while we were at Southeastern was the Piggy Bank, because he's over all things financial at Southeastern. And probably, honestly, I'm not trying to brag on him or blow smoke up his shorts right here, but probably the most versatile and most knowledgeable about the Cooperative Program is anybody in the Southern Baptist Convention. So I appreciate both of you being here with me today. All right, we're going to talk about the Cooperative Program. We all are somewhat familiar with this, but probably for lots of Southern Baptists, there might still be unawareness of how this functions and then specifically what it does for institutions like ours, seminaries that exist for your purposes to do theological education. And so we want to talk about that for just a few moments and help people see how this impacts students, how it impacts your institutions, and ultimately how that helps us fulfill the Great Commission. So just a couple questions. We've talked about these things before, but let's talk about them here as well. What would the impact be on your institution if we did not have a cooperative program? Adam, we'll come to you first.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie, and thanks for having me, and thanks for your warm reception. As a new president, you've made me feel very welcome. I appreciate that. About a third of Gateway's operating budget comes from the Cooperative Program. And so without the Cooperative Program, quite frankly, we would not be able to fulfill our mission of shaping leaders who expand God's kingdom around the world. Our faculty and staff do everything that they do with excellence, but also they do it as affordably as possible. Without the Cooperative Program, they would have to dedicate more of their time to trying to find the resources to train people, to do evangelism, to preach, to plant churches. With the Cooperative Program, they're able to focus their time and energies with students and with churches and remain closely connected with the churches of our convention. So it would be detrimental to the fulfillment of our mission.
Right, right.
Thanks, Jamie. It's glad to be up here with you today. We, at Southeastern, the Cooperative Program represents about 25% of our operating revenues. And the impact for us, I was looking last night, if the Cooperative Program went away and we had to all of a sudden charge the students for those dollars, we would have to increase tuition overnight by 40% just to be able to cover what the Cooperative Program does. And I love the fact that whenever we have anybody from other seminaries that are not Southern Baptist come and visit our school and are looking at our operations, they stand amazed at the Cooperative Program because of the impact that it is able to have on the institution, especially on the students, on being able to essentially graduate debt-free because of the impact of it.
You know, in many ways, it's for the seminaries, it runs parallel to missionaries in the Southern Baptist Convention. If you're a missionary and you're not a Southern Baptist, what you then have to do is, yes, you go overseas, you're learning a language, you're learning a culture, you're trying to engage people, build relationships. Oh, and then you got to stop, come home, and spend a year raising money every 2 years, every 3 years. So it makes missionary work very difficult. There's a real sense in which for us as institutions, it does the exact same thing. Because of the Cooperative Program, institutions like us are able to focus our energies, our attention on actually educating students, actually building programs and teaching courses and doing all those types of things because of this luxury that we've got called the Cooperative Program. So it's a huge game changer. Ryan, we'll come back to you. You talked about the students and like a 40% increase. If we did not have that, I've noticed, I started tracking these things a couple years ago. I was on an accreditation visit for another school, not a Southern Baptist school, but it would be what we would call an ally school. This is the Gordon Conwell, this is the Reformed Theological, this is the Asbury, these types of schools. And when I was on the visit for them, I just was out of curiosity looking at their tuition page. What does it cost a student to go to those schools? And I looked at one, and then I looked at two, and then I looked at about 5 of those schools. And on average, a student getting a Master of Divinity at one of those kinds of schools, it's about an $85,000 price tag. But in our shops, give or take a few thousand here and there, roughly they can go for about $25,000 because of the Cooperative Program. The Cooperative Program quite literally cuts the cost of theological education by about 2/3 for our students that are coming, and that's a gift. Talk for a minute about our students, their backgrounds, maybe financially. In our experience at NOBTS, they don't come from much. And they really, the only way this is possible is if they have something like the Cooperative Program holding them up and helping them.
You know, in our educational system that we have in the U.S. now, student debt has unfortunately become a massive part of that whole system.
Yeah.
It's kind of baked into it. And so we'll have a lot of students that are coming to us from a master's degree burdened already with a lot of educational debt. They're going to be looking at ministry opportunities in the future that educational debt is going to weigh down the options that are available to them. And that's what some of our sister denominations are having struggles with right now, is that they can't afford, because in addition to their undergraduate, their seminary education comes with a lot of debt.
Right.
And so because of that, our students then are able to think about things like the mission field without the burden of this huge, heavy educational debt that gets compounded by their ministry preparation that they get at the graduate level.
That's right. Yeah, and so challenge one is they can't afford to do the next degree to prepare for ministry. And even if they could, they now can't afford to take a job as a pastor or as a missionary because they won't make enough money to pay off the debt. So it has a big impact. Adam, what do you see from your students?
Well, as you say, Southern Baptist students pay 50% less than non-Southern Baptist students. Non-Southern Baptist students also benefit from the Cooperative Program. Right. And many of them, while they're at school at a Southern Baptist seminary, fall in love with the idea of churches cooperating together to pool their resources to train the next generation of ministry leaders. So we have a lot of students that come in and decide to lead their churches to give to the Cooperative Program because they see the value. I know in California, I'm constantly hearing from churches that are looking for pastors, youth ministry leaders, worship leaders, and those churches need that generation of trained ministry leaders. Right. And so the Cooperative Program enables us to put people in ministry leadership in local churches that otherwise would not be able to go and serve. And so the Cooperative Program makes it possible. The number one reason why a student doesn't come to Gateway is that they can't afford to come to Gateway because of previous student loan debt, because of inflation. And so the Cooperative Program literally bridges the gap and provides for the possibility of their training so that they can go and fulfill God's calling on their life.
Wow, yeah, that's right. Now, we feel this a lot. We talk about this thing a lot, and there's obviously some level of discussion about this within the messenger body of the Southern Baptist Convention, but we hear about CP declines, and CP declines really hit everybody, at least from the entities. But from our seats, let's talk about it from an institutional, a seminary seat for a second. How have CP declines caused your institutions to have to adjust what you're doing in the way you execute the ministry assignment that the Southern Baptists have given you?
Well, I think that the CP decline in many cases relates back to what I said earlier about our focus as administration and faculty on connecting with students, connecting with churches. When the seminaries have less CP money, right, they have to look towards other fundraising efforts to bridge the gap. Because as I say, finance is the number one barrier to student enrollment. The churches are being planted. That God is calling the next generation of ministry leaders. And so it's the CP that allows us to receive those students from the churches and train them for the churches. And we want the CP to continue to grow stronger so that our administration and faculty can remain focused on serving those churches, serving those students, and not having to dedicate that time to making up for that decline.
Yeah. Hutch, what do you see?
So in Southeastern's case, when I started, the Cooperative Program made up nearly 70% of our operating revenue and now is 25% of our operating revenue. The seminaries, some people don't know this, but while the IMB and NAM receive a set percentage, the seminaries as a whole split a set percentage. And so enrollment plays into all that mix as to how much is received, as well as the overall cooperative program budget. You know, I was looking back, and 20 years ago, we're actually receiving $500,000 less than we received 20 years ago from the cooperative program. If you calculate the impact of that from an inflation standpoint, that is the equivalent of almost $6 million from an operating standpoint. So the cooperative program is huge, impactful, and I don't want to discount it all there, but it is helpful for Southern Baptist to know that for going forward, for the future that we have, especially from theological education standpoint, there has to continue to be a significant investment, or just like they're having to do at Gateway, we either have to charge the student more, or we have to spend a whole lot more resources trying to raise money to help offset those costs.
Yeah, long ago, when many of our pastors in the convention right now went to seminary, they may have paid a small matriculation fee to go to one of our seminaries, but now they have to pay much more than that. Ryan mentioned it's similar at NOBTS. When I was coming along, it was probably contributing about 70% of our total operating budget, and now it's, for us, CP contributes about 23% of our operating budget. In my 5 years of being president at New Orleans, we have dropped $800,000 in CP giving towards our school. And a lot of times, we're very grateful for the CP dollars that we get, every single one of them, and we hope and pray for many, many more. But a lot of times Southern Baptists think that the CP is fully funding our institutions. They're not. In our case, we will receive about $6.2 million, and in the past 2 years, we write 2 checks, and the CP money is gone. We write our health insurance check for our faculty, staff, and administration, and we write our property insurance check for our campus, and our CP money is gone. Everything else we operate with comes from student tuition and donations and other such incomes, which means we have to work a lot harder now for those types of revenues. But we are grateful for the CP allocation. We are grateful for what it does for us. Maybe just each of us end with a quick little story, a student, what they're doing, where your students going, what do they go after they graduate from your schools, what do they go then to do?
Yeah, you know, we're so blessed with a focus on the Great Commission among all of our seminaries, and Southeastern has a really special passion, especially for international missions. And so, like for example, of the 80 some odd missionaries that were commissioned, nearly a third of them were coming from the state of North Carolina, and many of them are students. And so we're really thankful for that, and that's what the cooperative program allows us to do, is to get the gospel to places that the gospel needs to get to, both here in the U.S. and overseas.
Yeah, that's right. The average student at Gateway Seminary is in their 30s, married with children, serving in a local church. And so their reliance upon the cooperative program support literally enables them to complete their degree and be more faithfully prepared for their ministry in the local church. And so our students graduate with just a debt of gratitude, not only for what they've received, but also a commitment to perpetuate through their local church, giving to the cooperative program. So I want anyone watching this just to know that the students at the seminaries are committed to the CP to make sure that the next generation of ministry leaders received what they've received. And we cover that at New Student Orientation. We make sure that every student understands how the CP works, how it blesses them, and we urge them to make a commitment not only to receive those funds, but to lead their churches to give to the cooperative program so that the next generation can receive that benefit as well.
Amen. Fellas, I'm grateful that you joined me on the platform today. I'm even more grateful for your schools, your institutions, the work that you're doing to train up that next generation of servants. Keep doing it. I'm excited to partner with you and trust that the Lord's going to do great things through our work. To all of you, thank you so much for letting us speak to you today. Thank you, more importantly, for your support through the cooperative program. It is a gift, it is a gem, it is a missiological force in history, and I hope and pray that we'll all remain faithful to it in the years to come. Thank you for giving. Thank you for being sacrificial. We look forward to being with you the next time.